Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And you know, we have some remarkable people amongst our subscribers, truly remarkable. And one of them is Gunther, who is blind, completely blind, but he sends me emails. And, you know, he also writes extensive emails pushing the case of South Africans. He lives in Australia now. And he wrote me the following email. Hello, Scott. Long letter below that I emailed to Foreign Affairs Minister. I doubt I'll get anything back other than the standard reply. In any case, I wondered if you saw the section that Peter Credlin had on Sky. Yes, I did, and I actually put out a video about it. I'll actually put a link below this video, so anybody who didn't see it, they can go and watch it. She spoke to someone called Savannah Labuschagne of the LNP in Queensland. In the past, I tried to get in front of the Home Affairs about the number of applications and approvals. They gave me the number of applications, but every time refused to respond to the number of approved applications. But of course, in this video that he's talking about, she got the number of approved applications, and it was 0. I then started to think it's because none had been approved, and that has now been confirmed by the report of the Australian newspaper. And he has now sent Peter an email setting out his position. I'm not going to read that email, it's in confidence. But this is the letter, this lengthy letter, this blind fella wrote. Remember, he's blind. He wrote to the minister in Australia. And he's talking to Foreign Affairs Minister Maurice Payne. And just so you understand how he actually writes letters, I'll tell you what he says right at the bottom. He says, if the email format looks strange, it is because I am blind and use screen reading software to enable me to use my computer. So that's how he actually writes. I mean, isn't that extraordinary? What a man. Okay. Gunther, I've sung your praises enough, okay? Because, hey, I'm going to be blind soon too, so we've got to stick together. 2 peas in a pod. Anyway, Gunther says, to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maurice Payne, the reason for this letter is to explain why I think South African farmers qualify as refugees under the UNHCR definition of a refugee. I fled from South Africa 17 years ago because it became very clear that there was no future for my young boys, 6 and 8 years old, when we were in South Africa. They have both grown up in Australia and have become productive members of the Australian landscape. My one son works full-time and has completed 22 of the 24 units required to obtain a business degree from the QUT, or Queensland University of Technology. And my other son completed a mechanical degree also from the Queensland University of Technology and is currently working for a large international company in Brisbane. The lifestyle and opportunities we have experienced in Australia is wonderful, and from all reports from South Africa would be unlikely in South Africa. The main reason why we left South Africa, though, was because of the lack of safety. The list of safety incidents in our family is extensive, including the murder of 2 of my wife's uncles on their farms. This brings me to the status of white farmers. I will make it clear why the emphasis is on white farmers especially. As you are no doubt aware, there are 3 major political parties in South Africa, namely the ruling African National Congress, the Democratic Alliance Party, and the Economic Freedom Fighters. Together, these 3 represent about 90% of the voters, with the ANC on about 64%, the DA on about 20%, and the EFF on about 10%. Julius Malema is the leader of the EFF and member of the South African Parliament, and has made statements like, one settler, one bullet, kill the Boer, kill the farmer, and very recently called on his followers to attack whites. He discharged an automatic machine gun at an EFF rally in East London in the Eastern Cape, and he's currently before the courts for that particular event, so this is not make-believe. And Gunther goes on to say the definition of a refugee according to the United Nations Human Rights Council is A refugee, according to the Convention, is someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. Some argue that Malema's rhetoric is not South African government policy. However, President Ramaphosa has said in the past that he would welcome Malema into the ANC party. Ramaphosa has at the UN conference in New York also stated that there are no white South African farm killings. This is blatantly wrong, since a list with detail about the killings of more than 2,000 farmers since 1995 are available from AfriForum, reputable farmer organization in South Africa. Clearly, South African farmers live in daily fear of their lives based on their race. In light of this and the declaration by Minister Dutton that white farmers deserve special attention, it would not be inconceivable that many South African farmers would qualify for humanitarian visas to Australia. And not only that, but those farmers would be great beneficiaries to Australia, because Australia would gain from their farming expertise, and Australia needs well qualified and skilled farmers, which South Africa has got heaps of. It would fill a huge gap, a huge chasm in the skill base in Australia. Anyway, sadly, this is not the case, and the bureaucracy in Canberra is blocking South African farmers from settling here. Given the above, one would think that if a farmer was shot and then brutally raped in front of her 3 children, the Australian government would open their arms to this family. Unbelievably, this family was denied a humanitarian visa. I know that no government office will discuss an individual situation, but this is a disgrace. If this family does not qualify, who does? The problem we have in Australia is that the Department of Immigration is controlled by the Greens, the lefties, and they hate white people. You just have to look at who works there today. This is a complete disgrace in the Australian government, and the Scott Morrison government should fix this quick fast. Really, they should. They've got to look at what's going on in the Department of Immigration. Anyway, Gunther goes on to say, Minister, why have you not said anything about the incitement to violence by the leader of the EFF? The Australian government was leading the international condemnation of apartheid in the 1970s to 1990s, but now have lost its voice. Surely you're aware that many poor Africans are struggling to feed themselves since the agriculture industry in Zimbabwe was destroyed by Mugabe's policies, which Ramaphosa is following. And he goes and he says this. He says the same is happening in South Africa, and every farmer that is murdered means one less commercial small business also dies. Thousands of Zimbabweans are streaming to South Africa since they do not have enough food to survive. Politicians and humanitarians love to use the term minority groups when it suits their narrative. But now it seems like the fact that whites are in the minority in South Africa, they are not afford that status. No, they're seen as apartheid racists. Talk about living in the past. That is such a misnomer. I have to wonder if it is because it is politically uncomfortable for some politicians. Yes, it is. That's exactly the problem. Can you imagine the worldwide outcry if the leader of a political party in Australia, with 10% support of the voters, would openly call for the killing of a minority group in Australia? One photo of a dead little boy on a Mediterranean beach led to the welcoming of millions of Middle Eastern people to Europe, and a photo of an injured and thirsty koala has led to donations of millions of dollars to Australia. There are hundreds of photos of the internet of actual crime scenes of tortured and killed farmers and their families in South Africa. And we're talking about white farmers. The excuse that it is robberies gone wrong is utter nonsense. Why would a robber torture and rape the occupants of a farmhouse if the motive is robbery? Please read through the below examples of crimes that can be verified with news reports and police crime scene photos. And here we go. Please turn down the volume if you get easily offended. A 4-year-old girl is pinned to a kitchen table and brutally raped by 3 grown men whilst her parents are forced to watch. She is later burned to death when the attackers realize she survived the rape. A mother is raped in front of her 3 children, and then the attackers attempt to rape the 11-year-old girl. This family was denied access because they have moved on from the farm. You can never move on from such a brutal ordeal. I mean, talk about PTSD. This is extraordinary. They would be living in hell being in South Africa. This is just extraordinary. A 12-year-old boy is killed by forcing him into a bath of scalding hot water. The crime scene cleaners, known as blood sisters, later described how they scraped his skin from the bath. It's just shocking beyond belief. A 63-year-old grandmother is found dead in her house with holes drilled through her feet. A 90-year-old man is found at his gate with severe facial injuries and his Achilles tendons cut to prevent him from calling for help. Do these acts sound like the work of burglars? Hardly. 2 farmers are killed every week in South Africa. They are targeted because of the colour of their skin. The world is watching a slow genocide. Yes, it's a genocide. Get over it. It's a genocide. A slow genocide taking place, and our Australian politicians are too scared to do something about it. We know that South Africans that are in Australia assimilate well and contribute to the economy and are not a drain on the welfare system like Africans from other parts of Africa are a huge drain on the welfare system in Australia. And not only that, but they don't assimilate, and they're now creating little gangs in places like Melbourne. And that is self-evident, and it's all on the record. The white South Africans would never do that. Anyway, let's continue. The Home Affairs Department refuses to divulge the number of South African farmers that have been approved under humanitarian grounds on the basis of anonymity, which is nonsense. How can a number expose any details? I think it is an excuse to hide from the fact very few, if any, have received a helping hand from Australia. Somehow we're allowed to know the number of Syrian refugees already admitted, but not South African farmers. On top of this, the ANC government is continuing with the process of expropriation without compensation. And then Gunther goes on to say, I am in the Dixon electorate and understand that MPs give priority to voters in their own electorate. But I'm pleading with you to allow my email to go to the minister, since this is not a political issue, but a humanitarian issue. I have written to Ministers Coleman and Dutton about this critical situation and have received standard off-the-shelf responses. I did meet with Minister Dutton in July 2017 in his Strathpine office. And then he closes by saying, if the email format looks strange, it is because I am blind and use screen reading software to enable me to use my computer. He signs off, Gunther. And I await your response. Well, I wouldn't hold my breath, Gunther. That's all I can say. You know, we are just going to continue to keep on putting pressure on the Australian politicians. We're going to shame them, especially the Greens. We're going to shame them. When farm murders happen in South Africa, we're going to pose the question to the Greens politicians who are causing so much grief in stopping white South Africans from coming to Australia. We're going to put the ball right in their court and say, you are to blame for this. I think that's the best strategy. Let them start feeling the moral outrage of the general South African community in Australia, because it's huge. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.